My name is Evan Guzman, and I'm the founder of the MiLBRAND Project.
What inspired you to create the MiLBRAND Project?
Actually, it based out of a need. When I was working in the corporate sector for Verizon, running the military program, I noticed that there were a lot of other companies that wanted to do the same, but lacked the resources to get started. So I realized that a big target demographics was small to mid-sized businesses that were very interested in hiring veterans in particular. And I saw an opportunity. I did good work at Verizon, and I figured if I was going to take a leap of faith, that was the time to do it in 2017, based on all that experience. So I've been working with small to mid-sized businesses in helping them to accelerate their capabilities and engagement to hire veterans, including transitioning service members and military spouses.
What is it like helping veterans succeed in this field?
Well, it feels great because when you think about it, I see it as serving those who have served us. During that transition, they just don't know what they want to do, right? Not everyone who transitions out of the military wants to do what they did in the military in the civilian sector. They were trying to figure things out. So I sort of just became this mission of mine. And once you start helping one veteran and they show their appreciation, hey, thanks to you, I was able to, it becomes very contagious. Or at some point, it was like, all I want to do is support our military connected community. Although I'm a recruiter, a professional recruiter, I put an emphasis on helping to recruit military members to organizations as well as help organizations engage with the military. So it's been probably one of the most gratifying careers I've had out of several, because it's really giving back to those that have given so much for us. And this is my way of saying more than thank you for your service.
Yeah, I talk to a lot of veterans and they bring up the challenges they face in transitioning back to civilian life. How is it, making sure these people not only have help in business, but just a support system?
Right. Well, and what's interesting is that we don't have to be professional coaches or mentors to help someone in transition,
Right.
Because in reality, it's really just fostering conversation. So if you were transitioning out and you were like, hey, Evan, I noticed you work in this industry. How did you get into that industry? What did you need to do? Sometimes you have specific feedback to say, well, here's what I did. And that feedback can translate into actionable items for those transitioning service members, sort of like a call to action. The best part about it, though, is that I can refer them to others and resources to really help them accelerate what they want to do. But the first thing they need to know is, first they need to know a little bit about themselves, right? So what do you like doing? What don't you like doing? What are some of the things that excite you? So once you kind of get into that mode, they start to develop a sense of self, their own situational awareness. And then they start to craft a plan to figure out where they want to go in terms of a career move. And this is where we find camaraderie. This is where veterans are helping other veterans who've transitioned. So it's really been a good place for me because it's sort of like working with this community of goodwill that just want to give back, right? So, for me, it's been more than just a career. It's really been more of a passion and hobby that I just all lumped up into, a career path.
Yeah, when I was researching you, I saw a number of businesses you are helping. Can you tell me about some of those?
Yeah, sure. So the businesses that I typically, or they sometimes engage with me saying, hey, we don't have a big budget. We don't have a lot of resources. We don't even have someone that we can dedicate, but we really want to hire veterans. We really want to get more engaged. So that conversation then turns into an action plan, right? So when I created the MiLBRAND Project, it wasn't specifically to start a business to generate revenue and live a lavish lifestyle, right? It was really more about helping organizations that want to contribute to veteran employment, didn't know how to do it. I help set them up for success, regardless of where they are financially or budget wise. So I help them to identify opportunities in which, every business has a process, right? So I call it the business as usual approach. You're doing this already. Let me help you connect with the right resources that will attract, former military professionals who are interested in your industry. Here's where to go, or here's who to contact, or here's some great resources that you can deploy right now without having to have a big budget to do this. There are free resources for organizations to tap into that many organizations just don't know about. And other times it could be just an introduction to an organization or veteran service organization that helps with recruiting. Making that connection or that spark leads to so much more. So I love working with organizations that are interested in just engaging and kind of figuring things out, but also standing out. I don't just connect them to the military community. I try to help them stand out. And we do that organically. So this is where growth comes, where you don't have a big marketing budget, but if you can allocate time and commitment, you can grow organically, especially when it comes to hiring from the military connected community. So my companies range from retail to the private, security industry to big corporations, B2B and B2C businesses. So it's really up and down. But where I found the most opportunities is those smaller to mid-sized businesses that haven't yet really tapped into how to engage with the military community. And that's where I find the most need as of now in the marketplace.
I could hear the passion in your voice of how when you talk about these businesses. What are some of the things that motivate you?
Well, I have many friends that have served before and after 9/11, brothers and sisters that have served in the military. I worked as a contractor, back with a security company that would hire special operators, right, for private industry jobs and then be deployed again, doing similar work. But I think where the passion comes is the first job that I ever had was working for Meals on Wheels, right? A couple of friends of mine called me and said, hey, come with us over the weekend and help us deliver meals to elderly people who can't, move around or aren't able to be mobile. And what I discovered 3 months into it, I was responsible for this entire wing, a big building complex that I didn't know at the time was a military community of Vietnam veterans, World War II veterans, Korean War veterans. And I was delivering food to not only those individuals, but their spouses. Many spouses have lost their spouse to service. And I see pictures on the wall. And from that day on, for some reason, everything I've done, I've always wanted to include the military connected community, especially as a military professional. Our job is to find the right talent. I've always felt personally that if you're not including members of the military, you've already failed. So from then on, everywhere I went, no matter what job I had, I always made military engagement a priority because I knew they were great. They were able to adapt, to improvise and overcome in any challenge. They do that in the civilian sector too, and they know how to get the job done. So for me, it was just something that stuck with me. And wherever I go, no matter what, I always bring that component of military engagement with me.
Can you tell me about one of the businesses you are working with?
Oh, yeah. So Veterati. So that was started by a couple of Marines, right? And an entrepreneur. When the two Marines were going to transition, they were having problems figuring out what they wanted to do. So they kind of made a business out of solving this problem. Like, where can transitioning service members go to network? Where can they go to find answers to common questions related to employment, education, and entrepreneurship, right? Because those are the three categories in which a transition service member is looking into. What do I want to do when I get out? Maybe there's a business I'd like to start, or maybe I should go back to school. But and we always tell veterans, you have to network, right? You got to network to get work. But there was never, ever a place for them to actually to send them to where they can be proactive about that engagement, aside from going to hiring events, which is still part of the process. So when Veterati was introduced to me, I immediately knew the value. However, we needed to figure out how do we redefine mentorship in the digital age when it comes to transition. Because when people think of mentorship, they think of it as just this one-on-one-off conversation to gain knowledge, and that the mentors are typically older mentoring younger, that's completely changed. We've got mentors that are younger that are now mentoring, older individuals that are more experienced, but because of the digital age and AI, right, they're connecting with others to really learn what that industry is about. So they formulated this platform that allows you to use your LinkedIn profile to sign in, so you don't have to recreate, another profile. Like when you apply for a job, give me your resume, now fill in all the blanks. It's just a waste of time. So
Yes.
Veterati kind of applied the principle of keep it simple, stupid, right? The KISS model, which is sign in using your LinkedIn profile for both mentees and mentors. There are some algorithms that help you connect with the right mentors at the right level, allow you to select the veterans or mentees and mentors based on their areas of expertise. Once it's selected, it'll once you confirm, there's a series of prompts, it'll be saved in your whatever app you have on your phone, whatever calendar app. And then when the time comes for the conversations to take place, like if we had set Veterati up for this call, it would call your phone first, and then it would call my phone, and then it would connect us without us even exchanging our private numbers. And it'll say, please hold for your mentor. And then the conversation begins. But you've already been prepped for your mentor because you get some text messages. Hey, here's some information about Michael in what he does, and it'll give some insights on me. Your mentee is looking for opportunities in media, whatever that is. So this way, it's sort of breaking the ice. So when the time comes, you have this lively conversation that you allot 1 hour. 10 minutes before the end of the call ends, you get a text message to say, hey, let's start wrapping things up, to kind of keep you on cue. And we try to moderate the conversation so it's not one talking more than the other. But what we try to do in the platform is sort of prep them for success. But a lot of times when it's just a conversation, right, there's no formatted engagement to say, ask them this, ask them that. It's really, really open dialogue. And then from there, about 93% of those who sign up on Veterati the first time come back again. And what we're finding is, let's say you're a military spouse. Most military spouses would prefer to speak to another military spouse before they go out and start to talk to others, right? They want to kind of get that confirmation that, hey, this is a good, safe platform to use. And it's all based on just grateful Americans who just want to give back and say more than thank you for your service, right? It's sort of this opportunity for grateful Americans to say, you know what, I'm gonna mentor a veteran this month, and they can set it up. You can schedule based on how you want to do it. I do it every Friday, 1:00. Sometimes I get booked, sometimes I don't, but I always get an average of 1 to 2 calls a month that I do. So about 2 hours a month is what I offer, but I would offer more if people select me more often. But the truth is, the marketing behind Veterati as it stands today is really user-generated content. It's the feedback you provide. We had a great conversation. It really helped me. Then they ask you questions about what superpowers did you share with your mentee today, just so we keep a dashboard of all this information. But what we're finding, Michael, is that with all this technology of today, people, what they're really striving for and striving towards is more of that human to human engagement, one-on-one, because oftentimes these mentor conversations end up becoming referrals, right? Sometimes they go into business together, and other times they're just helping you move along and move further much quicker than it is just applying for a job and then waiting to hear back.
What advice would you give anyone who are thinking right now of starting a business?
I think the important thing is to really understand the market you're trying to get into. Like for instance, if you're going to start a program that helps the military connected community, do your research, because there are over 40,000, right, veteran service organizations that exist. And how do you differentiate yourself, right, from others? And it's really about having a marketing plan. So at the MiLBRAND Project, the business I started, the part 2 of what I do after I help companies engage with the military is I provide coach and mentoring for these new businesses. And I question them, I'll play the devil's advocate and say, hey, Michael, so have you really thought about this industry? And what do you provide that you think would differentiate you from the rest? And the reason that's important is because they need to feel comfortable about why they're doing it and that there's room in the market for what they're bringing. Because if it sounds like everything else, you're just going to be competing in a saturated market. And the only way to really stand out is to sort of know what you're doing, identify the challenges, but also how you uniquely kind of market that business out there. But it's really having the right mentors by your side who are going to challenge you and be other play devil's advocates. But I would say the challenging part is really knowing what you want to do and then having a game plan. And that is what I usually help with, providing them with a slight blueprint, if you will, or framework in which they can start working off of, but they need to make it their own.
Where do you want to see the MiLBRAND project, say, in the next 3 to 5 years?
I want the MiLBRAND project to become a bigger resource for the military connected community, to go into more like investing more in veteran projects. That's the third part of what I do at the MiLBRAND project, is I work on very unique projects that are very innovative and no one else is doing. So my goal is to get the MiLBRAND project in a place where I'm able to fund a lot of these, and I see them as investments for future growth, right? So I can work for a company and get a small amount of equity to help them build. But for me, the MiLBRAND project is really about providing what I call industry gateways. In other words, if you're interested in entering the 5G broadband industry, which is where I have some experience in, I want to be able to provide you an industry gateway so you can apply to all jobs or hear about all the jobs versus going to a company, Verizon, T-Mobile, AT&T, that you can go in one area and see all of the organizations, because there's more than just Verizon. There's construction companies and other technical companies that help Verizon push its fiber optic works out there, building towers, bringing down towers, repositioning them. And a lot of veterans don't know that. A lot of people don't know these businesses exist. But where I see myself is helping increase more small to businesses engaging with the military by also investing in very innovative programs like Gold Star Gamers, Valor Club, which is this community development project in San Antonio, helping to, small businesses with some seed funding so they can put their dreams into action. In fact, this Pocket Square was started by a Marine veteran. And what he did was every ribbon you earn in the military, like if whether it be the Purple Heart, the Distinguished Afghanistan campaign, is now a Pocket Square patented by this organization. He needed a little help. And I said, well, you know what? Let's focus on, this is free. Didn't charge him anything for this. I said, let me help you by positioning your product somewhere where I think is relevant. So I was invited to a show on Fox News segment on a Veterans Day, brought some Pocket Squares with me, started to hand it out. And now some of the folks on, especially Pete Hegseth, who is a Fox contributor, wears it all the time. And as a result, this guy's business started to boom because people started to see it. Now, here's the best part about it. You may not know what Afghanistan ribbon looks like, but you know who does? Someone else that served in Afghanistan. So when they see that Pocket Square, it's sort of like a subdued way of saying, I earned this medal, but it's not a Pocket Square, because not everyone wants to wear a pin or wear a hat that says I'm a U.S. veteran. It's more subtle. But if you didn't serve and you see the Pocket Square, everyone will compliment and say, that's a nice looking Pocket Square, because those ribbons look really nice, right? But now that it's a Pocket Square, I just have the flag one, but he's got a whole host of ones. So helping businesses like that by just giving them a sort of like a little nudge in the right direction so they can succeed is really what I want the MiLBRAND project to be all about.
Yeah. That nudge is a big deal.
Yeah, it is.
How can people reach out and learn more?
Very easy. Evan Guzman is my name, so you can find me on LinkedIn very easily, or you can go to the MiLBRAND Project, spell the MiLBRANDproject.com, and connect with me there as well.